So we're here today with Randy George, who is one of the owners of the Red Hen Bakery in Middlesex, Vermont. And thank you very much, Randy, for talking to me today. Great to see you.
Sure.
Great. So first of all, I'd like to, I think life has been divided for all of us into pre-COVID and post-COVID. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about why you first founded the bakery pre-COVID and what the business was like as a regular, just
Sure.
schedule before all this happened.
Yeah. So we celebrated our 20th year anniversary last fall, and we started in 1999 as a wholesale bread bakery. We were in Duxbury at the time, and after 8 years, we built up a business with sales to stores and restaurants around the area, and then after 8 years, we moved to our present location in Middlesex, and soon after we moved here in 2007, we opened a cafe, which has been gradually building to the point where that became half of our business. So it really diversified what we do in all kinds of different ways. It certainly gave us more of a connection with the local community because we had local people coming in, and we were seeing people face to face every day. And we had 48 employees as of mid-March of 2020.
Wow. That's great. That employs a lot of people. Yeah. And I know that you've been active in some of the social issues that have been talked about in the state, things like paid family leave and minimum wage. Tell us your views on those.
Yeah, I'm actually the chair of the board for the Main Street Alliance, and that's the organization that Liza and I, my wife Liza and I own the business together, and we have worked through the Main Street Alliance on paid family leave. Before that, the first big campaign was paid sick days that we were involved with for that, and then it's been paid family leave more recently. But yes, we've been involved in other things like the Equal Wage Compact and things along those lines.
Yeah, that's terrific. Those are issues that I support. So I really appreciate that you're a business owner who can present that perspective on those issues. Yes,
that's the that's the really great thing about Main Street Alliance. It's a good organization. It's an organization that I really like because it doesn't take necessarily the expected view. Certainly, it's nothing like a chamber view, but it's also not like other progressive organizations that are not necessarily tied to businesses, and it's also distinct from VBSR as well in terms of the dialogue that we have with small business owners and the issues that the really small business owners are facing.
Yeah, that's a very important part of the Vermont economy. So,
yeah.
So COVID struck and it's changed your business quite a bit, I would imagine. What have you had?
Yeah, I think that it certainly has. It changes every day, so it's really too hard to really know. We're far from being able to tell the story. I mean, we can tell the beginning of the story, I think, really. But within the span of a couple of weeks, our cafe went from booming as it had been, as I described before, from being, we were kind of actually, fortunately, probably in the middle of our slower time of the year, but still seeing the annual growth rates that we've have been fortunate to see for several years now. And all of a sudden, the brakes went on hard there in mid-March, as they did for so many. And within the span of a couple of weeks, we went from a bustling place to being closed entirely. You know, we tried a week of takeout, and that didn't really wasn't worth it at all. And so for a couple of weeks, probably actually 3 weeks, we were closed entirely. And then we had pretty quickly applied for a PPP loan and got one in that first round. We were very fortunate to work with Community National Bank. We had a relationship with a good relationship with them because of the loan that we took out last year to do a major renovation here, mostly centered around our cafe. So that went much more smoothly, I think, than it did for a lot of other businesses. And of course, there's been a lot of very justified criticism of that program. One of a group, of course, that I'm in touch with, and so I've been hearing a lot from our restaurants, which are largely just closed entirely. And of course, if we were only a cafe, the PPP might not have been so helpful for us. But what happened is that we, at the worst of this, were down to about 50% of our sales, and that 50% was the so-called, for us, what we call the legacy part of our business, the part that we started with back when we were in Duxbury 20 years ago, and the wholesale bread. And fortunately, even though about 25% of that business is to restaurants, and that went away completely, almost entirely, just as quickly as our own cafe went away. The stores picked up, and we are thankful to be considered an essential service. So we've of course had to take all kinds of precautions, but we've been able to keep going, and we're really fortunate for that. And because we can keep going, and we never drop below 50% of our normal revenue, it was really tremendously attractive to be able to put people back on payroll and bring them in here as we saw the opportunity for them to do anything that would make us a dollar during this 8-week period. And we're in the middle of that. We're right. It was 4 weeks ago yesterday that we started this. So this will be really interesting to see what happens after we get to the other side of this. And the good thing is, because we're basically able to take advantage of, we're not paying for our labor, we're not paying for our rent, we're not paying for our utilities. So it's virtually like we get to keep the gross profit on anything we can make at this time. So we've been working to do that and to build back whatever we can and adapt. And as I mentioned to you, I think before we started recording, put a hole in the wall and opened up a service window right off of our parking lot, and that's been doing better and better here. So all of our full-time people went back on payroll, with the exception of one who is on family leave because she has childcare issues. So we're very fortunate that we're able to get everybody back. There was a period where 28 of our 48 staff were laid off, but that didn't last more than 2 or 3 weeks. And then once we had the PPP money, we brought our full-time people back. There were a few part-time people who we didn't put back on payroll. So we're slowly building back, and like I say, the story is far from being told, because what's it going to look like after 8 weeks? What's it going to look like in 6 months? What's it going to look like in another year? You may have seen that somebody from, I think, the World Health Organization was saying, look, this is probably here to stay. It's not, this may not be the, like smallpox, where once we figure out the vaccine, it's done and we can move on. There may be a vaccine, but it may be no more effective than the flu vaccine is, which is one thing for flu and another thing entirely for something like this. So I think we have to be adjusting to this new normal, and for a long time to come, and that's a process that everyone worldwide is going to be trying to figure out. So we're very thankful that we are starting to build business back right now, but then we have to be really prepared to potentially go right back to where we were, I think, in mid-March, and be, just doing the basic, the bread side of the wholesale bread side of our business. I think that's something that may come in waves. We've been warned about that.
Yeah, well, sounds like you've done a great job so far being flexible and resourceful, and I'm sure your employees appreciate all you've done to bring them back on too. So, but as you say, to be continued.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. But I look forward to patronizing your establishment by going to your window. Then that's great. I often before this crisis would stop by and have meetings at Red Hen and really enjoy the cafe. So,
well, that's great. We appreciate all the support. I mean, this community is really unique, and I say it a lot. I've been saying it for years, well before this crisis. And we've seen probably the only other really extreme crisis that we've faced, and this didn't really affect our business so much, but what was Irene, and we were more personally affected at our home. But this is the Vermont community is very special when it comes to either supporting local businesses or just supporting individual people, and the way that people have come back as soon as we've been able to come back. They've come back to spend money with us, and give generous tips, which always go to various charitable organizations in our case. It's really amazing. It's really, really remarkable, and that extends to our the wholesale side of our business, which is almost entirely, a good 80 or more % of our of the wholesale side for us is to independent stores, or when they're able to be open, independent, locally owned restaurants. So it's a business to business type of relationship, local business to local business type of relationship. We're so fortunate in Vermont to have a grocery landscape that is in our world, at least, actually dominated by co-ops and independent stores. We sell to only 3 stores in one chain. And we've tried the other ones out, but it hasn't really. But we found so much more success with the local businesses. So it's a very special business community, a community in general here in Vermont.
Very true. Very true. Great. Well, it's wonderful to hear your story. Thank you so much for talking with me today, Randy.
Yeah. Thanks for calling. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Good luck with things.
Take care. Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.